Her routine was the highlight of the beam final for me. Hands down. Hands down. Hands down. Привет! My name is Wally, and welcome to my channel. I make gymnastics content, so feel free to check out my videography, and if you like what you see, please subscribe. I would appreciate it so much. Today we're going to talk about the balance beam final at the 1992 European Championships in Nantes. And I thought I would mix it up a little bit from my last video, and we're going to go in chronological order this time. First up was Tatiana Gutsu from Ukraine. She had a glorious meet here in Nantes. So far, she had won every single thing that had been competed. She was trying to have a clean sweep the way that Boginskaya did 2 years prior. Gutsu is well renowned for her difficulty on beam to this very day. She threw everything but the kitchen sink, layout step out mount, standing back with a full, split jump, immediate Rolfova, 2 layout step outs, which we're going to see a lot in this final, and her signature dismount series, back handspring step out, back handspring step out, back handspring full in. To this day, I don't think I've seen anybody else compete that dismount combination. It was very innovative, very unique. This code loved originality, and that's what Tatiana showed here. This was a very solid routine. She had a noticeable check on her back with a full, and on her series, she kind of had to slide her front leg back just a tiny bit, but it was noticeable. She also had a small hop on her dismount, but it's incredible how she landed with her chest almost all the way up on a full twisting double back. Tatiana has a real lightness on beam. She is so quick in everything she does. There would be no pause deductions. She's just trick, dismount. In fact, it's very reminiscent to me of the way that beam is worked nowadays. While I was watching this, it was kind of reminding me of Simone Biles and the way that she works beam. Not a lot of style or accoutrement, just, getting up there, doing what you need to do, and getting off the equipment. When it comes to artistry, the pinnacle of her routine was probably the move that she does a couple times where I don't know ballet terms, but she takes her back leg and extends it, but you weren't getting much more than that, unfortunately. When it comes to separating out the gymnasts, it would be nice to have the combination of both the tricks and the artistry. I had this at a 9.9, which was the same as all the judges bar one, and we're off to the races. Up next was Vanda Hadarian from Romania. Vanda also had a fabulous meet here. She won the bronze medal in the all-around, and she also was in floor finals where she finished in 7th place. Unfortunately, it feels like Vanda's kind of slipped through the cracks when it comes to great Romanian gymnasts. It's a real shame because she was very much in the style of an Aurelia Dobre and Alexandra Marinescu. Very stylish, not your typical stock, stoic, not giving you anything Romanian that you tend to think of. But the Romanian program at this time was so deep that she didn't qualify for all-around finals in Barcelona. She never really got to show the whole world her work. Prior to this, she was quite accomplished. She was the 91 Junior European Champion. She had tons of difficulty in this routine, including multiple series, one of which was back handspring, layout step out, immediate Corbett, but she was a bit crooked and she had to break form quite a bit to save the swing down on the Corbett. That was the primary deduction in the routine. She also had a bit of an arm check on her layout step out on her other series. One thing I did notice was she tended to pause quite a bit before some of her skills. And as I mentioned in my recap about the 1989 World's Beam Finals, pauses weren't necessarily something that the judges deducted for back then, but I think some of the judges definitely would have been paying attention to that. It really can affect the rhythm of the routine. I think Vanda was able to manage it better than Chen Quiting did, but it was still something that I picked up on. She also had tons of variety in this routine, great amplitude, great flexibility on her switch lead, sweep. It was just good all across the board. I really like this routine. I had her at a 9.85, as did most of the judges. Her final score was a 9.837. At this point, I'm practically a missionary for spreading the word when it comes to Elena Grudneva. I've posted 2 videos about her. I'm working on a 3rd one, and thankfully I get another chance to talk about Elena because she qualified for beam finals here. Elena was the top Russian in 1992. She made the unified team later that summer. Elena actually came so close to medaling in the all-around. She was having a great meet, and then she got to floor. She was doing her usual. She was giving us all the artistry. She was giving us all the style. She paused in the corner. She yanked that head back. She was really serving it. But I think she wore herself out with all that dance mama, because on her dismount whip to double tuck, she landed way short. She had to put both her hands down, and I think she winded up 10th in the all-around. Interestingly enough, Dina Kochikova, who would go on to be a Russian star in the next quadrennium, she actually competed here at 92 euros. She finished quite a bit down in the all-around standings, but she was age eligible in 92, which I'm not sure if a lot of people know about. This wasn't one of Elena's better beam routines. She just seemed a bit off throughout. Her mount series, back handspring step out, back handspring step out, layout step out, she seemed a bit crooked. And then on her actual series, the compulsory 2 layout step outs, she had to step out of it, which, while not aesthetically unpleasing, it definitely was a deduction. And I don't know why, but they completely gutted her beam routine from the prior year, which was a work of art. Spoiler alert, you may or may not see that routine soon in all of its glory, but so many of her unique skills were taken out by 1992. So she really needed more difficulty or an additional acrobatic skill, an innovative skill, an original skill, something special to make her stand out to really be at medal level on beam. She also took a considerable step backwards on her tuck double back. Her final score was 9.825. Of course, I had her at 9.85. So, at this point, she's in last place. Up next was our all-around silver medalist, Gina Gogian. When most people think about Gina Gogian and balance beam, their body might involuntarily wince, thinking about the routines later in her career, where she won multiple medals, including a gold at 97 Worlds. Somehow in that code, her dismount sequence was allowed to count as her flight series, which makes no sense considering there was no actual flight element being done on the balance beam. Gina was what we call a code whore. Or somebody who took advantage of maybe some of the loopholes in the code of points. If she was a YouTuber, she would have been putting out some low effort content. But in many ways, back in 92, Gina was the complete antithesis of that. She did a Kim Gwang-suk on bars, a very, very difficult release move that we don't even really see today. And on beam, she was really solid. Her routine in finals showed a lot of variety. She mounted with a planche, which shows great strength going up to the handstand. She had tons of difficulty, including 2 series. First one being back handspring 2 layout step outs. Her form on her layouts was good, great height on her layout step outs. She then did another series of back handspring back pike with a full. Other than Gutsu, she was the only gymnast to compete a full twist on the beam, and she did hers in combination. But performing that difficulty obviously comes with risk, and she fell off the beam on her full twist. It's kind of unfortunate that she fell. I would have much rather seen her medal on beam here than on floor. A couple of the judges still had her at a 9.45. I mean, obviously, had she not fallen, I think she would have been right there in the medal conversation. One of my favorite things about these Europeans is it was the first time that the former Soviet republics were competing as their own individual nations. And this was so amazing because for us fans of the Soviets, normally we were restricted to 3 per all-around final and 2 per event final, but because they were now competing for their individual republics, theoretically you could have had an entire final with former Soviets. In this beam final, half of the competitors were former Soviets: Gutsu, Grudneva, Stopchataya, and Boginskaya. Which brings us to Lyudmila Stopchataya. I made a whole video about Ukrainian gymnastics and their legacy. There is a quintessential Ukrainian look. You think of the gorgeous line, the style, the toe point, the extension, and Lyudmila was no exception. Oh, where to even begin describing this masterpiece? Let's start with this. Her mount series was back handspring step out, back handspring step out, Corbett pose. Yes, queen, work. I mean, within the first, 8 seconds, it's over. The style, right? Just in that pose. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was so good. And it just got better. Back handspring step out, Rolfova. She is working the entire beam. She's doing low beam work. She's doing back spins. She's doing TikToks. Not actual TikToks, but wouldn't it be funny if Lyudmila Stopchataya had a TikTok account? It would make me download the app. All the beautiful poses, the toe point, the extension. Lyudmila had us booked and blessed on this fine day. Oh, it was so good. And to top it all off, her dismount was round off piked full in, which was the hardest dismount that had ever been done up to this point. If I had one criticism of this routine, it would be that she didn't do any acrobatic skills where she landed on her feet. Both of them were swing down elements, but that's being nitpicky because the rest was just sublime, out of this world, magical, inspirational, aspirational goals. So, the judging on this. First of all, the range on these scores was just homophobic. I don't know how anybody could have that at a 9.75. Yes, there are deductions in this routine. One doesn't need to look further than the last skill, the dismount. You know, she straddles her piked full in. She lands a bit low, although I thought she did a pretty good job at selling the landing, right? I mean, I seriously don't get it. I don't know if that check that the Ukrainian Federation sent to bribe the judges bounced or what, or maybe they missed the memo, but it doesn't make sense why anyone would have this routine below a 9.9 in my opinion. I had her at 9.95, as did two of the other judges. Normally I would say the judges didn't know what to do, but I think she definitely was the victim of being the third Ukrainian here. I think they wanted to spread the wealth around a little bit. Otherwise, I just don't know where these judges came up with that score. I mean, these days you would probably find, I don't know what, a whole point of deductions just on the dismount alone. But back then, the judges absolutely took difficulty into account when mitigating deductions on a specific skill. And like I said, that piked full in was the creme de la creme. It wasn't like nowadays where you would be penalized for doing a harder skill if you couldn't do it well. In 1992, when originality and difficulty was rewarded, that would have been a bonus, not a deduction. The crowd also booed her score, which was a 9.887, as well they should. They should have had a full-on riot. She was below Gutsu at this point, which, no ma'am. Up last is Svetlana Boginskaya. She is in her seafoam green Leo. This Leo is a dream. It's the same one she wore during the all-around finals in Barcelona. During the 1992 Olympics, they had this thing called the triple cast, which was like, you know, wall-to-wall coverage of every sport over 3 different channels or something. They showed the women's all-around. Boginskaya's Liberté was so good, they had to show it twice. I'll never forget that. So Svetlana was on a bit of a redemption story here. A couple months prior to this, she had done one of the best beam routines I had ever seen in my life at the 1992 Worlds in Paris during the semifinal round. Sadly, she left her best in the semifinal because during the final she had a couple of problems and she ended up off the podium. Like, Boginskaya has so many accomplishments. The list is longer than the number of people who have blocked me on Twitter. We mentioned before the clean sweep at the 1990 Europeans. She also was, of course, the 89 European champion, the 89 world champion. She really was trying to salvage these European championships for herself. She does a running punch front, onto the beam into an immediate jump. I'm not exactly sure what the jump is. I think it's a double stag jump or a double stag leap. Please let me know down below. I tried to do some research and I couldn't find a definitive answer. Neither the skill before the connection or after the connection are really done that well. But I do appreciate that she did do a connection out of her mount. It's actually interesting in hindsight watching Boginskaya's beam routine, because what she doesn't have in, sheer objective difficulty, she kind of makes up in originality. She was doing that punch front mount, which nobody else did. She also did a gainer layout step out, which again, nobody else did. And originality was obviously something that the judges were looking for. In this routine, Boginskaya was solid as a rock. Her series, the back handspring 2 layout step outs, so well done. Beautiful locked out legs and knees, gorgeous extension. She took out her double turn from Worlds, which was my favorite skill in the routine, but I understand why she needed it to be, more consistent, more safe. I just wish she had kept that in for the rest of the season. It was such a cool skill, especially the way she did it. The entire time she's giving us all the regalness, all the grace, all the elegance, and her dismount is round off tuck double back, which she sticks cold. Obviously, there are deductions in this routine. She has a cowboy on her dismount. Some of her leaps and jumps don't have the best amplitude, but I had this at a 995, and so did all the judges. 995 straight all the way across. And there's your winner, baby. This is how rewarding a champion should look like. She totally deserved this 995. It wasn't a sympathy gold or a goodbye gold or a lifetime achievement award. She seemed very touched by the crowd response. It was just a wonderful moment. Je l'aime. Je l'aime, je l'aime, je l'aime. So the podium ends up being Boginskaya gold, Gutsu silver, and Stopchataya bronze. I would have had Boginskaya and Stopchataya tied for gold and Gutsu bronze. Be sure to let me know what your results would have been down below. I would love to hear it. Let's get a discourse going. While rewatching this meet, I love that they show all the individual scores, which really made me start to think about the importance of having 6 different judges. Because gymnastics is a subjective sport, each judge has his or her own preferences when it comes to how they prioritize different things, like difficulty, form, amplitude, presentation, artistry, etc., etc. And it's very challenging when you're trying to judge a routine through your own biases, right? All of us have inherent biases. It's completely normal. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just important to recognize your biases when you are trying to judge something objectively. And through those filters, you have to take a look at the routine in question and the execution deductions it had. By having 6 different judges, it really allows having to amalgamate into a final score that is the best representation of everything that you should be trying to do in your gymnastics routine. I wish that the individual judges' scores were shown more often. It adds a whole new layer or nuance to the situation. I love that. I love having more to look at and to analyze. So that is all for this video. Please, please, please hit that thumbs up. Let me know if you would like to see me do the bars final for Europeans. Bars is not my forte, but I absolutely will do it if people want to see it. I hope everyone has a fabulous day, and I will see all of you guys in my next one. Bonne journée. Take care. Bye, loves.